Hello, and welcome to today's story. My name is Philip, and I like to dive deep into scary Asian stories and cover them in my videos. If you have an interesting story you want me to cover, let me know in the comments. I always read all comments. For now, let's get into today's story, where we have a few terrifying tales to share tonight. And one of them begins in the bustling heart of Kuala Lumpur, where a quiet hotel hides a secret that refuses to rest after midnight. In tonight's episode, we go into the story of a young woman named Maya, a business traveler from Singapore, who checked into a seemingly ordinary hotel. Nothing about the place felt strange at first. The lobby smelled faintly of citrus, the marble floors gleamed, and the soft hum of distant elevators gave a sense of calm. But as the sun went down, that calm began to rot into something else. The night felt too still, the air too heavy, and when the clock struck past midnight, a single knock broke the silence. A woman's voice followed, soft, polite, almost rehearsed. "Housekeeping," she said. "There's something deeply unsettling about kindness that comes too late at night, because Maya would soon learn after midnight, not everything that knocks on your door is human." Maya had always been used to traveling alone. Her job demanded it. She worked in corporate training, which meant long hours, hotel check-ins, and endless airport lounges. By now, she developed a rhythm pack light, keep to herself, and get through each trip as quickly as possible. When her company sent her to Kuala Lumpur for a 2-day seminar, she barely thought twice. She'd been to Malaysia before. She knew the city, the food, the people. Nothing about this trip was supposed to be different. The taxi ride from the airport was quiet. Rain streaked the windows, blurring the neon lights outside. It was late, just past 11, when she finally pulled up in front of the hotel. It wasn't a big chain, but it looked respectable enough. The sign flickered weakly in blue light, spelling out, "The Thalassa Suites." A doorman nodded as she stepped inside, offering a polite but strangely empty smile. The lobby was almost deserted. A faint scent of lemon polish hung in the air, mixed with something musty, like old wood that hadn't breathed in years. Behind the counter, a single receptionist stood a middle-aged man in a pressed shirt, his name tag reading Yusuf. He greeted her warmly, though his eyes darted occasionally toward the far end of the hallway, as if expecting someone to appear. Her room was on the 7th floor, one of only 3 occupied rooms that night. Yusuf mentioned casually while handing her the keycard. The elevators creaked on the way up, their mirrored walls reflecting her tired face from a dozen angles. Each floor they passed felt darker, quieter. When the doors opened with a dull chime, she was met with a long, carpeted hallway lined with faded wallpaper. Every few meters, an old brass wall sconce flickered dimly, casting uneven light that made the corridor seem to pulse and breathe. Her room 713 was at the very end. It was small but clean. A queen-sized bed, neatly folded towels, a writing desk, and a faintly humming air conditioner. The walls were pale beige, decorated with old paintings of coastal towns. The bathroom tiles were chipped but spotless. Everything about it felt perfectly ordinary, which, in a way, was what unsettled her most, because something about this place was too still. Maya unpacked her laptop, set her presentation notes on the desk, and tried to shake the unease creeping in. Maybe it was the rain outside, or the low hum of the hallway lights. She'd stayed in worse hotels before. She told herself she was just tired. But as she prepared for bed, she noticed something strange. The towel rack held exactly 3 white towels, folded in the same precise way. Yet one had a faint gray stain near the edge. Small, circular, like the trace of a wet thumb. It wasn't alarming, just Odd. She didn't think much of it. She left it where it was and turned off the lights. The room sank into silence. Only the faint buzz of the ceiling fan filled the dark. Outside her window, the city stretched in distant lights, but from this height, it looked muted, almost lifeless. She set an early alarm for her meeting and lay back on the bed. Her phone screen glowed briefly, 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes to midnight. Somewhere deep in the hallway, she heard the soft roll of wheels like a cart being pushed slowly across the carpet. The sound stopped. Then came a faint knock, not loud, not hurried. Just 3 gentle taps, perfectly spaced. She froze. Her heart began to pound as she glanced toward the door. And then, a voice muffled, almost too calm. "Housekeeping." Maya sat up, confused. She hadn't requested anything, and yet there it was again. Housekeeping. This time softer, almost like the voice was right beside the door, waiting. The clock on her nightstand turned 12. Midnight. Maybe it was a mistake, she thought. Maybe the staff had the wrong room. But as she reached for the phone to call reception, the voice whispered one last thing, a single word, barely audible. Towels. The sound of wheels creaked again, and the footsteps faded down the corridor. Maya sat there for a long time, staring at the door, wondering if she'd imagined it. But she didn't sleep that night, because deep down, something in her gut told her this wasn't a mistake. It was a beginning. The next morning, sunlight poured weakly through the curtains, cutting across the room in narrow, dusty lines. Maya woke up groggy, her head heavy, her neck stiff. She'd barely slept. The night replayed in her mind, the knock, the voice, the mention of towels. But as daylight filled the room, it all seemed almost laughable. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe she'd mixed up sounds from another upper floor. Hotels had paper-thin walls. People came and went at all hours. Still, she found herself glancing at the door as she got ready. Nothing seemed out of place, except the towels. The one with the faint gray mark was gone. In its place lay a freshly folded towel, perfectly white, set neatly on the edge of the bed. She froze. She hadn't called housekeeping. She hadn't opened the door. She stood there for a long moment, her mind searching for logic. Maybe they had a master key. Maybe they entered while she was in the shower or while she dozed off. Still, the idea that someone had come in without her noticing left a chill crawling down her spine. She brushed it off and forced herself to move on. She had a seminar to run, and being late was not an option. By afternoon, the incident had faded into the background. The presentation went well, the team was polite, and she even found herself laughing with a few colleagues over dinner. When she returned to the hotel that evening, the lobby looked different, emptier, as if something in the air had been drained. The receptionist from the previous night wasn't there. Instead, a young woman stood behind the counter, scrolling through her phone. When Maya mentioned that housekeeping had entered her room at midnight, the woman looked up slowly, confusion knitting her brows. "After midnight?" she asked. "Yes," Maya said. "Someone knocked around 12. She said she was housekeeping. She replaced my towels." The woman shook her head. "Housekeeping ends at 10, ma'am. No one cleans rooms after that." "You sure it wasn't a guest?" Maya frowned. "A guest doing towel service?" The receptionist hesitated, then gave a short, nervous laugh. "Sometimes guests borrow things. Maybe she got the wrong door." It wasn't convincing, but Maya didn't want to push it. She nodded, thanked her, and rode the elevator up. The corridor was silent again, long, dim, endless. Room 713 waited at the far end, like a secret she didn't want to open. Inside, everything was as she left it. Still, the moment she stepped in, a faint chill hit her. It was subtle, but distinct, like walking into a room that had just been vacated by someone who'd stood too still for too long. The air conditioner's hum seemed slower, heavier. She double-checked the door lock solid. The latch clicked firmly into place. She pulled the curtains shut and sat on the bed, her laptop open but her mind elsewhere. The clock on her screen read 11:41 p.m. She didn't want to admit she was waiting, but she was. Her thoughts ran in circles. Maybe the woman had come to the wrong room. Maybe it was nothing. But what if it wasn't? What if someone really had entered her room not to steal, but to leave something? She turned on the television to fill the silence. A news anchor's voice echoed faintly through the static local stories, traffic reports, nothing important. She tried to focus, but every few seconds her eyes drifted toward the door. Then it came again. 3 knocks. Soft. Measured. The same rhythm. Maya's body went cold. She stared at the door, unmoving. "Housekeeping," the voice said. It was identical to the night before, gentle, female, polite. But now it sounded almost rehearsed, as if the voice was imitating itself. She stood slowly, her heart pounding. She approached the door, but didn't open it. Her hand hovered near the handle, her breath shallow. "Housekeeping," the voice repeated, quieter this time. "Towel service." Maya swallowed hard. "I didn't call for towels," she said through the door. No reply, only the faint hum of the hallway light. Then, a long silence. Finally, the wheels again, the slow, dragging sound of a cleaning cart rolling away. She waited until it faded completely before daring to breathe again. She should have called reception immediately, but something inside her hesitated. She didn't want to sound paranoid, she told herself. She checked the hallway in the morning. But the next morning, when she opened the door, the hallway carpet was dry except for one spot. Right in front of her door, a faint wet mark shaped like a half circle, as if a wheel had been resting there for a long time. She crouched down, touching the carpet. It was damp, cold, and when she looked up, her gaze caught the small camera dome mounted at the far end of the ceiling, the hallway CCTV. For a moment, the idea gave her comfort. If someone really had come, it would be recorded. Later that day, she mentioned it to the receptionist again. A different one this time, an older man with a soft accent. When she asked if the cameras worked, he paused, visibly uncomfortable. "Yes, ma'am," he said slowly, "but only the lobby and elevator are active at night. The 7th floor cameras, they're under maintenance." "How long have they been under maintenance?" she asked. He hesitated, then whispered, "Since last year." That night, she couldn't bring herself to sleep. She kept the lights on, the television running, her suitcase propped against the door. Midnight came and went without a sound. She felt relief wash over her like a tide. Maybe whatever it was had stopped. Then, at 12:03 a.m., her phone screen flickered. For a split second, the front camera activated on its own. She saw her own face, reflected tired, pale, anxious. But just behind her, in the reflection of the window, there was movement. A shape, faint, standing still. And then, before she could turn around, the lights went out. The blackout lasted only a few seconds, but it felt endless. When the lights flickered back on, Maya was still frozen in place, her breath sharp and shallow. The reflection in the window was gone. The air felt heavier now, humid and metallic, like a room that hadn't been opened in years. Her phone screen was still lit, the front camera off again, as if nothing had happened. Her mind tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was a power surge. Maybe the movement she saw was her own reflection shifting when the light dimmed. But deep down, She didn't believe that. There had been someone standing behind her. The next morning she went straight to the front desk. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke, trying to sound calm. "I need to see the hallway camera from last night," she said. "Room 713. I think someone's been coming to my door." The young receptionist looked uncomfortable. She tapped on her keyboard for a few seconds before glancing at the back office door. Then, without saying anything, she disappeared behind it. When she returned, she was accompanied by the hotel manager, a tall man in his 40s with deep lines under his eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. His name tag read, Mr. Rahman. "I understand you've had a disturbance, Miss Maya," he said, motioning her to follow him to the back. "Let's take a look." They entered a small security room filled with humming monitors. Most of the screens were dark, but one showed looping footage of the lobby, another of the elevator doors. The manager rewound the recording to midnight. Together, they watched as the elevator doors opened at 12:01 a.m. No one stepped out. The hallway camera for the 7th floor was blank, static, and flicker. Mr. Rahman's face tightened. "Strange," he murmured. "This camera's been acting up. We've called for a technician many times, but..." He trailed off. "You said someone came to your door?" Maya nodded. "2 nights in a row. A woman, in a cleaning uniform. She says housekeeping, and keeps asking about towels." For a moment the man didn't answer. His gaze dropped to the floor, his fingers tapping the desk rhythmically. Then, with a careful tone, he asked, "Did you open the door?" "No," she said quickly. "Not last night." He exhaled in relief, or maybe fear. "That's good," he whispered. "If it happens again, please don't. Just call the desk immediately." "Why?" she asked. He gave a polite smile that didn't hide his unease. "Old building, ma'am. Strange wiring, odd noises. Some guests misinterpret things." But as she turned to leave, she caught the look the receptionist gave him, a quick, silent exchange that spoke louder than words. There was something they weren't telling her. Back in her room, Maya tried to distract herself with work, but her concentration fractured every few minutes. The walls felt closer now, the air thicker. Every sound, the distant elevator, the drip of the bathroom tap, the faint hum of the air conditioner felt amplified. At noon, she noticed something else. The towels had been changed again. All 3 were new, fresh, perfectly folded. She hadn't left the room. She hadn't requested service. Her phone buzzed with an incoming message. Unknown number. "Ma'am, please do not open your door tonight, no matter what you hear." She stared at the screen, her throat dry. She typed back, "Who is this?" But the message wouldn't send. The number had already disappeared. By evening, her nerves were fraying. She went down to the front desk to confront the staff, but neither the receptionist nor the manager was there. Only an elderly woman sat in the lobby, her clothes old-fashioned, her hair tied in a tight bun. She smiled faintly as Maya passed and said, in a soft voice, "You're in room 713, aren't you?" Maya stopped. "Yes, how do you know?" The woman's smile faded. "They should have stopped renting that room. The cleaner still thinks she has work to do." Before Maya could respond, a bellboy approached, asking if everything was all right. When she turned back, the old woman was gone. The lobby chair where she'd sat was empty. That night, she packed her bags. She couldn't stay another night. She told herself she'd check out first thing in the Prostictane morning. But as midnight approached, exhaustion pulled her under. Her eyes drifted shut against her will. She woke to the sound of the latch clicking. The door creaked open just enough for the hallway light to spill in. Her heart stopped. She couldn't move. She could only watch as a shadow fell across the floor, long, slender, and human. Then, a whisper from the darkness. Housekeeping. The voice was calm, patient, as though it had been waiting all night. And when she turned on the bedside lamp, the door was closed again. The towels on her bed were soaked through. This time, the water wasn't clear. It was tinged faintly pink. Maya couldn't think. Her breath came in short, ragged bursts as she stared at the towels spread across the bed. The fabric glistened under the weak yellow lamp, wet and heavy. She reached out, trembling, and touched one corner. It was cold, icy, as though it had been pulled from a freezer. Her fingertips came away, streaked faintly red. The smell hit her next. Not metallic, not like blood exactly, but something older, like rusted pipes and stagnant water. She stumbled backward, her chest tightening. This wasn't exhaustion. It wasn't a dream. Someone had entered her room again. Her first instinct was to run, grab her bag, get to the lobby, demand to check out. But when she moved toward the door, she stopped dead. The lock was still bolted from the inside. That's when she heard it. A soft, dragging sound, like fabric brushing across the carpet. It came from the bathroom, slow, deliberate. The kind of sound that made your skin crawl before your brain could catch up. Maya's throat closed. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, but her legs wouldn't move. She crept forward, one step at a time, the sound growing louder. The bathroom door was half open, the light off. A thin trail of moisture seeped out across the tiles, winding toward her feet. She reached out with a shaking hand and pushed the door open. The bathroom was empty. The shower curtain hung still, but the mirror it was fogged, as if someone had been standing in front of it, breathing heavily. And in the condensation, words were written with a single fingertip. Still dirty. Maya stumbled back, her breath catching in her throat. She turned toward the main room and froze again. The television had turned on by itself, flickering between static and a faint image. It wasn't a channel, but footage-grainy CCTV. It showed the 7th-floor hallway. Her hallway. The timestamp read 12:03 a.m. Maya's pulse thundered in her ears as she stepped closer. The image was unstable, distorted. Her door appeared in the center of the frame, closed. Then, slowly, it opened. No one was there. The door swung wider on its own, and then, from the edge of the frame, something moved. A faint figure, a woman's silhouette, pale and stiff, pushing a cleaning cart. Her head tilted forward as though her neck couldn't fully support it. She moved soundlessly, her limbs jerky, too slow, like a frame missing every other second. The woman stopped in front of Maya's room. The camera's perspective was too far to show her face, but the uniform it was unmistakable. A faded blue housekeeping dress, the kind Maya had glimpsed that first night. The figure stood there for a long moment. Then she raised one hand and knocked 3 times. Maya's stomach twisted as the woman leaned closer to the door on screen. The motion was wrong, too fluid, as if gravity had forgotten her. Her head pressed against the doorframe, her ear turned to listen. Then, suddenly, she looked straight at the camera. The footage flickered, distorting her face, no eyes, no mouth, just a blur of pale skin and hollow shadow where features should be. The screen went black. Maya backed away, trembling violently. She grabbed her phone and tried to call the front desk, but the line only produced static. She dialed again, still nothing. Then, faintly, through the receiver, a whisper. Housekeeping. She threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. The whisper continued, faint and broken, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. Desperate, she yanked open the curtains. The city lights outside shimmered through the drizzle, but her reflection in the glass wasn't alone. Standing just behind her, in the reflection, was the cleaner, half-visible head tilted, eyes still missing. Her outline shimmered faintly, as though made of smoke. Maya spun around. The room was empty. A sound came next, the clatter of metal like a bucket being dropped. The air conditioner rattled violently, sputtering before going silent, and then the smell returned, damp, sour, heavy with decay. From beneath the bed, water began to pool, slowly at first, then spreading, soaking into the carpet. Maya crouched down, hesitating, before lifting the bedskirt. The towels, all of them, stuffed beneath the bed in a sodden heap, dripping with dark water that smelled like something long dead. That broke her. She grabbed her suitcase, barely zipped it, and sprinted to the door. The latch wouldn't move. She pulled harder. Nothing. It was stuck, as if sealed shut. She kicked it once, twice, panic taking over. Then came the whisper again, right behind her ear this time. Still dirty. Her vision blurred. Her hand twisted the lock one more time, and suddenly, the door flung open with violent force, as though something on the other side had been pulling just as hard from the other end. The hallway was empty. No cart, no footsteps, just silence, stretching endlessly down the dim corridor. She stepped out, shaking, clutching her suitcase. Her wet footprints marked every step she took toward the elevator. When she reached it, she slammed the button repeatedly until the doors opened. Inside, the mirror reflected her pale face, and behind her, for a split second, the same woman in the faded blue uniform standing motionless in the corner. The doors closed before Maya could turn around. When they opened again in the lobby, the woman was gone. But the towels she carried, those stayed wet. Maya stumbled out of the elevator, her heart hammering so loud it drowned out every sound around her. The lobby was empty. The lights dimmed to a sleepy orange glow. She ran toward the front desk, her wet shoes squeaking against the tile. Her voice cracked as she shouted for help. "Is anyone here? Hello?" No answer. The soft buzz of a ceiling light filled the silence. The reception bell sat there on the counter, gleaming faintly. She slammed her hand on it again and again until finally a door creaked open from behind the counter. Mr. Rahman stepped out, startled, his shirt half untucked, as if he'd been sleeping in the back. His eyes widened the moment he saw her drenched, trembling, eyes wide with panic. "Miss Maya? What happened?" She pointed toward the elevator, breathless. "There's someone on my floor. A woman. She came into my room again. She's not real. I saw her." Rahman's face paled. He came around the counter slowly, as though afraid of what she might say next. "You saw her?" he whispered. Maya's voice wavered. "The cleaner. In the uniform. She keeps knocking at midnight. And tonight, she came inside. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, finally, he sighed a sound too heavy, too human. You shouldn't have been in that room." Her blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Rahman gestured for her to follow him to a small seating area in the corner of the lobby. The faint sound of rain tapped against the glass doors. He sat down, rubbing his temples. "Room 713 has been closed for years. It wasn't supposed to be booked." Maya shook her head. "But I checked in. You gave me the key." He looked up, startled. "No, I didn't check you in. I wasn't at the desk when you arrived last night." She froze. Her mind replayed the memory. The man with the neat uniform, the name tag reading Yusuf, the polite but distant smile. "There was another receptionist," she said quietly. "Older, thinner, Glasses. He said only 3 rooms were occupied. Rahman stared at her blankly. Miss Maya, there is no one named Yusuf working here. Not now. Not ever. The words hit like ice water. Rahman hesitated, then stood and walked toward a dusty cabinet behind the counter. He pulled out a thin folder, the paper yellowed with age. A long time ago, he began slowly, before this hotel changed ownership, there was a night cleaner named Nurul. She worked the late shift, always quiet, always polite. One night, there was an accident. A short circuit caused a fire in one of the upper rooms. She went up to clean before the fire was contained. He paused. She didn't make it out. Maya felt her skin crawl. What room? He looked her straight in the eye. 7, 1, 3. The rain outside grew louder, as if the world itself was listening. Rahman opened the folder and pulled out a faded photo, a woman standing beside a cleaning cart. Her uniform a soft blue, her face tired but kind. Her smile was unmistakable. Maya's stomach turned. That's her, she whispered. Rahman nodded grimly. After she died, strange things started happening. Guests complained about knocks after midnight, wet towels appearing in their rooms. Sometimes, the smell of smoke. We stopped renting out the room. We even sealed it, but somehow the booking system keeps assigning it. When we try to delete it, it reappears. He rubbed his hands together, avoiding her gaze. We even tried priests, cleansing rituals. Nothing worked. She wasn't angry, just stuck. They say she keeps cleaning the room she died in, waiting for it to finally be clean. Maya's mind spun, connecting the pieces, the water under the bed, the words on the mirror, the towels. Still dirty. But why me? She asked, quietly. Rahman shook his head. Sometimes it's random. Sometimes it's people who stay too long. But maybe... He hesitated, his eyes flickering toward the elevator. Maybe she thought you saw her. Maybe that's enough. Maya gripped the edge of the counter. I'm leaving. Right now. Of course, he said, nodding quickly. I'll call you a cab. As he picked up the phone, a loud ding echoed from the elevator. Maya turned instinctively. The doors had opened. No one was there. Just an empty cleaning cart. Rusted. Damp. Water pooled beneath it, spreading slowly across the marble floor. Rahman dropped the phone. His voice trembled. She never comes down here. The smell hit them next old soap and burnt cloth. The air grew thick, suffocating. Maya backed away as the elevator light flickered violently. The cart shifted forward on its own, one wheel squealing softly. Then, from the speakers in the lobby, a faint voice, static-filled, warped, but clear enough to send chills through the room. Housekeeping. Rahman muttered a prayer under his breath. Go, he said. Please, go now. Maya grabbed her bag and ran for the doors. Rain lashed against the glass as she stumbled outside, gasping for air. She turned back only once. Through the window, she saw Rahman still standing in the lobby, his eyes locked on the elevator. The cart was gone. The floor was dry. And yet, on the reception counter, something white gleamed under the flickering light, 3 folded towels, neatly stacked, a single drop of water rolling down the top one like a tear. Maya didn't stop running until the hotel was nothing but a faint glow behind her. The rain fell harder now, soaking through her clothes, blurring the streetlights into trembling halos. Her taxi never came. There were no cars on the road at all, only the echo of her footsteps and the hiss of water sliding into the drains. She found a small 24-hour cafe across the street and stumbled inside, dripping and shaking. The cashier glanced at her with mild surprise, but said nothing. She ordered tea just to have something to hold, something warm to remind her that she was still here, Still real. Her phone buzzed weakly, 1% battery. A single new message appeared, though the number was blank. Thank you for keeping it clean. Her stomach dropped. She looked out the cafe window. The Thalassa Suites loomed across the street, dark and silent, except for one light. Her room, 713, still glowing faintly through the rain. The curtain shifted. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw a silhouette standing there, motionless, facing her. Then the light flickered and went out. Maya left the city the next morning on the first flight she could find. She didn't tell anyone what happened. She didn't need to. When she landed back in Singapore, she deleted the booking confirmation from her email and swore never to stay in another hotel alone again. 2 weeks later, she received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a printed invoice on the Thalassa Suites letterhead. At the bottom, handwritten in shaky blue ink, were 4 words: towel service completed, 12:03 a.m. A drop of water had bled into the paper, smearing the ink. She threw it away immediately, but that night, as she tried to sleep, she heard it again, faint, rhythmic, coming from somewhere beyond the wall. 3 gentle knocks. Housekeeping. And when she turned on her bedside lamp, there on the chair by her door lay 3 folded towels, spotless, white, and dripping slowly onto the floor. What happened to Maya was terrifying enough to make anyone swear off hotels forever. But her story isn't the only one. Across Asia, there are rooms that never appear on booking lists, doors that stay locked for reasons no one explains, and guests who vanish without a trace. Every country has its secrets, and every hotel has that one floor people whisper about but never stay on. Our next story takes us north to Seoul, South Korea, a city that never truly sleeps. But inside one modern business hotel in Gangnam, there's a room so cursed that it's been erased from existence. Or at least, that's what management wants you to believe, because someone found it again. Room 404. And he never checked out. 1 story done, and 1 to go. I hope you liked the stories so far. When I make these long videos, there are nights where I stay up really late working on them. Tomorrow, I will be uploading another video. If you don't want to miss it, please subscribe. It's free, and it would help my channel get some recognition for daily posting. Thank you. Jin had built his online fame by chasing what everyone else avoided. Haunted temples, cursed bridges, abandoned schools. His YouTube channel, Ghost Atlas, thrived on danger. His viewers called him fearless, the kind of person who'd laugh in the dark while others ran. But off-camera, Jin wasn't fearless, just curious. Curiosity was his weakness, and Seoul's most notorious rumor had been gnawing at him for months. He first heard about it from a hotel worker during a live stream. A simple comment, half joking, "Ask them about room 404. When he pressed for more, the chat went wild. Stories poured in voices, counting down from the ceiling. Phones ringing from disconnected lines. Shadows under locked doors. Some claimed the room didn't exist at all. Others said it had been sealed shut after a woman jumped from the window years ago. The deeper he looked, the harder it was to find any proof. Every hotel employee denied it. Every online review mentioned missing room numbers. It was as though 404 had been erased from memory. So Jin made it his next project. 1 week, 1 camera, 1 night inside the room that supposedly didn't exist. The hotel itself was sleek and modern, a glass tower rising above Gangnam's neon skyline. Its lobby glowed with gold accents and soft jazz music, business travelers moving in and out with polite smiles. There was nothing eerie about it at first glance. It was the kind of place that promised comfort and anonymity, perfect for hiding something. Jin arrived just before sunset, camera bag slung over his shoulder. He recorded everything: the valet taking his keys, the polished marble floors, the scent of lavender drifting through the air vents. "This is where luxury meets legend," he joked to the lens, grinning. "And tonight, we're finding out if ghosts check in too." The front desk clerk smiled too easily when he asked about the fourth floor. "We don't have a 404, sir," she said automatically. "It's a technical floor electrical maintenance." But Jin noticed her hands tightened slightly on the keyboard, her eyes flicking toward the security room behind her. He let the topic drop, checked into room 408, and waited. Later that evening, he met a young bellboy named Minho in the rooftop bar, the kind of employee who'd seen too much and talked too little. A few drinks in, Jin brought it up again. "I heard there's a room that doesn't exist," he said lightly. Minho hesitated, glanced around, then leaned closer. "Don't ask about 404, he whispered. "It's locked for a reason. The floor plan says 406, but the walls don't match. People say you can hear the woman counting when the lights go out. Counting down." "How far down?" Jin asked. Minho didn't smile. 20. That was all Jin needed to hear. He slipped the boy a folded bill and asked if he could see for himself. After a long pause, Minho nodded once, his face pale. "Only after midnight," he said. "That's when the lights on that floor stop responding." As the clock ticked past 11, Jin set up his camera equipment in room 408. His viewers would see everything: the hallway, the door, the truth. He wasn't here to prove ghosts existed. He was here to prove that people's fears had a pattern, a story, a design. At 11:45, Minho texted a single message. "Now, keycard on the service cart by the ice machine." Jin grabbed his flashlight, adjusted his camera strap, and stepped into the empty hallway. The air was cooler here, still. The wallpaper shimmered faintly under the low lights. He found the cart easily and the keycard, just as promised. He filmed himself holding it up to the lens. "All right, guys," he whispered. "The forbidden room. The one that doesn't exist. Let's see what they've been hiding." The elevator chimed softly in the distance. Jin turned, the sound echoing too long for a single floor. Then, silence. He looked back down at the card. Room 404, printed neatly in gold lettering that shouldn't have been there at all. And for the first time that night, Jin felt something he couldn't record. Not curiosity, not excitement, fear slow, creeping, and alive. The fourth floor was quieter than Jin expected. Too quiet. Most hotels carried a faint hum air conditioners, distant footsteps, the buzz of a vending machine. But here, the silence pressed against his ears like water. He filmed his reflection in the elevator mirror, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It's weird," he said to the camera. "You can feel the stillness before the doors even open." They slid apart with a soft chime. The hallway stretched out in both directions, clean and identical, the kind of corporate emptiness that felt designed to erase identity. The carpets were spotless, the walls cream-colored, each door neatly numbered: 401, 402, 403, 405, 406. He stopped. No, 404. The sequence jumped cleanly over it, as though the number had never existed. But when Jin looked closely, the spacing between 403 and 405 was slightly off. The walls seemed wrong. Too long, too symmetrical, like someone had built a lie into the architecture itself. He turned the camera toward the empty space between the doors. "This is where it should be," he said, zooming in. "If the stories are true, 404 should be right here, but it's not." He rapped his knuckles on the wall. Solid. Then again, lower. A hollow echo answered back. Jin's grin returned the thrill of discovery lighting up his face. Huh, you hear that? It's not solid drywall. There's something behind it. He ran his hand along the surface until his fingers caught on a faint seam, almost invisible beneath the wallpaper. Someone had sealed it perfectly aligned, perfectly painted, but not perfectly gone. He glanced down at the keycard. The embossed gold lettering seemed to shimmer under his flashlight. "All right," he whispered. "Let's see if this actually works." He pressed the card against the seam. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft electronic click broke the silence. A narrow line of light appeared, running vertically through the wall. Slowly, the section shifted inward, like a door surrendering its secret. The air that escaped from the gap was cold, colder than any air conditioning could make it. It smelled faintly of dust, perfume, and something metallic beneath. Jin aimed the camera inside. Room 404 was smaller than expected. The curtains were drawn tight, the furniture draped in sheets that had turned yellow with time. A single lamp stood by the bedside table, unplugged. The bed itself was still made perfectly tucked, a single indentation visible in the pillow. He panned the camera slowly. On the desk sat a half-open suitcase filled with clothes. Beside it, an untouched cup of coffee, now black with mold. The timestamp on the digital clock next to it blinked 4 a.m. Frozen. "It's like time just stopped," he muttered. He approached the window, careful not to disturb anything. Outside, the Seoul's skyline glittered under the night rain, neon lights smearing against the glass, but the reflection caught his attention. Someone was standing behind him. He spun around, heart-hammering, but the room was empty. He swallowed hard, forcing a shaky laugh. Okay, he said into the camera. Could have been the camera strap, or my shadow. Still, his pulse wouldn't settle. He sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress stiff beneath him. The smell of the room seemed to grow stronger, not just dust now, but something else, like burned hair. He adjusted the camera and spoke directly to his viewers. So far, everything here looks untouched. No signs of recent entry. But the weird thing? The electricity still works. That lock was digital, meaning someone's been keeping the system active. He looked toward the desk again. The coffee cup, the lipstick-stained rim, the faint ring of moisture beneath it, as though it had just been set down. Then, a soft sound, a click, echoed from the bathroom door. He froze. "Hello?" he called out, half joking, half not. "Is anyone here?" No reply. He stepped closer. The bathroom door was slightly ajar. A draft slipped through the crack, carrying a faint, whispering sound too soft to make out. He pushed the door open with one finger. Nothing. Just a mirror, cloudy with age. The bathtub was empty, the drain rusted. But when he turned back toward the sink, he noticed something. The mirror wasn't reflecting his camera light correctly. The glow was warped, bending around something he couldn't see. He leaned in. The glass was cool under his breath. Then, faintly, words appeared across the fogged surface, as if written by an invisible finger. "You shouldn't be here." Jin stumbled back, nearly tripping over the threshold. His heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the words. They began to fade slowly, dissolving into streaks. He grabbed his camera, zoomed in, and whispered to the lens, "Okay, that wasn't here a second ago. Someone's messing with me." The door behind him creaked shut by itself. He turned, catching it just before it latched. The light flickered. The air grew denser, colder. He stepped into the hallway, adrenaline cutting through his fear. "Minho?" he called out. If this is a joke, it's not funny. But the hallway was different now. The carpet pattern had shifted longer, darker, stretched toward infinity. The elevator light at the end of the corridor blinked faintly red instead of green. And somewhere above him, faint but clear, came the sound of footsteps slow, deliberate pacing across the ceiling of a floor that didn't exist. He aimed the camera upward. The footsteps stopped. Then, a voice, soft, female, in Korean, began counting. Sa, sam, I, 4, 3, 2. Jin's blood ran cold. The voice stopped just before 1. And somewhere, deep in the hallway, a door creaked open, even though every single room, including his, was already unlocked. Jin stood frozen in the corridor, the red glow from the elevator light washing over the walls like a heartbeat. His camera trembled in his grip, the lens still pointed toward the far end of the hallway, where a single door now stood open. Room 404. He swallowed hard and called out, "Minho, is that you?" No answer. Only the steady hum of the building and the faint sound of water dripping, rhythmic, deliberate, coming from somewhere inside the open room. He took a cautious step forward. Each footfall sounded too loud, echoing unnaturally off the walls. The closer he got, the heavier the air felt, as though the corridor itself was resisting him. The smell of something damp mold, maybe seeped from the open door, clinging to his throat. He reached the threshold and stopped. The room looked different now. The sheets on the bed were gone. The lamp was on, though he hadn't touched it. And the half-empty coffee cup from before sat upright again, steam curling faintly from its surface. Jin stared at it through the viewfinder. "Guys, I swear to you that cup was cold before," he whispered, his voice shaking. There's heat coming off it now." Then the lights flickered once, twice, and the door slammed shut behind him. Jin spun around, the sound deafening in the small space. "Hey!" he shouted, pounding on the wood. It didn't move. He tried the handle locked from the inside. His camera caught the entire frantic moment, his breath ragged, the edges of the lens fogging slightly. He turned the flashlight back toward the bed. Someone was sitting on it. The figure was faint at first, half-formed a shimmer in the air, like heat distortion. It looked human but blurred, as though the lens couldn't fully capture it. Then, slowly, it sharpened into the shape of a woman. Her hair hung long and wet around her face, her clothes a rumpled white uniform stained dark at the sleeves. Her head was bowed, her hands clasped tightly around something Jin couldn't see. He lifted the camera, his voice barely a whisper. "Who are you?" The woman didn't move. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Her shoulders trembled once, a sharp, unnatural twitch, and then she lifted her head. Her eyes were pitch black, reflecting nothing. Jin stumbled backward, nearly dropping the camera. Okay, this isn't real." The television in the corner flickered on, blaring white noise. The woman's reflection appeared on the screen instead of his own. And then, distorted through the static, came her voice soft, rhythmic, counting. "Sa, sam, I, 4, 3, 2. The final number hung unspoken. Then, silence. The TV shut off by itself. The woman was gone. Only the camera caught the movement, her outline flickering behind him for a single frame before vanishing again. Jin turned in circles, panic overtaking reason. The walls seemed closer now, warped slightly, breathing in sync with the building. He pressed himself against the door, trying to calm his breathing. "All right. It's fine. I'm fine. It's probably a projection or something in the lens." But when he glanced down at the viewfinder, the screen showed something different from what he saw with his own eyes. On the camera, the bed was still occupied. The The woman was still there, sitting perfectly still, except now she was facing the lens directly, her mouth curved into the faintest, most unnatural smile. Jin's pulse spiked. He jerked his head up. Nothing there. Looked back at the screen. She was closer now. He lowered the camera. Empty. Raised it again, closer still. A sudden knock rattled the door. 3 precise knocks. He froze, not daring to move. Then, from the other side, a voice whispered softly in Korean. 4. Oh, 4. Jin's stomach turned to ice. He banged on the door, shouting for help, his voice breaking. The walls vibrated with the sound, as if echoing him from inside the plaster. Then, all at once, the lock released with a soft click. He yanked it open and stumbled into the hallway. The air outside felt heavier than before, the corridor darker. But someone was there now. Minho, the bellboy, standing a few feet away, his eyes wide, his face pale. "What did you do?" Minho whispered. Jin tried to speak, but words failed him. "You weren't supposed to open it," Minho said again, voice trembling. "That door wasn't supposed to open." He grabbed Jin's wrist and pulled him toward the elevator. "We have to go. Now." Jin resisted, still filming. "Wait, what is this place? Who was she?" Minho didn't look back. "That room doesn't belong here. It's left over. She doesn't stop until she finishes counting." "Counting what?" Jin asked. Minho pressed the elevator button repeatedly, glancing over his shoulder. "The floors," he said quietly. "The ones below us." The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Inside, the digital display flickered. Floor numbers began to scroll upward. 5, 6, 7, even though they hadn't moved yet. And then, as Minho stepped in first, the doors slid shut on their own, trapping Jin outside. The last thing he saw before the elevator vanished upward was Minho's terrified face, and the floor indicator blinking red. 4, 5, 6. The elevator vanished upward, the sound of the cables echoing faintly through the hollow shaft. Jin stood there, frozen in front of the closed metal doors, his pulse racing so fast he could barely breathe. For a few seconds, the hallway was still, silent. Then the elevator display above flickered again, and instead of climbing higher, the red digits began to descend. 7, 6, 5. Jin stared at it, his breath catching. 4. The lights stopped. The doors slid open. But the elevator was empty. No Minho, no sound. Just the faintest smell of something burnt and damp, the same scent that had filled room 404. Jin stepped back, his camera still recording, the faint red light blinking in the dark. He whispered into the lens. "He was just there. You saw that, right?" He was inside. Then, faintly, a sound came from the elevator speaker, static first. Then a voice, distorted, fading in and out. "Help! Me! She's still here." It was Minho. Then came another sound, layered beneath it, the counting again, slow and deliberate. "Sa, Sam, E." 4, 3, 2. Jin dropped the camera, the sound of it clattering, echoing down the hall. His instincts screamed to leave, to run, but something stronger, something colder rooted him in place. He had to see. He had to know. He picked up the camera, stepped inside, and pressed the L button. The elevator doors closed. But the elevator didn't move. The lights flickered once, twice. Then everything went black. For a few seconds, the only sound was Jin's breathing. Then, faintly, the display above him lit up again, red, bleeding through the darkness. He hit the buttons frantically. Nothing responded. The numbers stayed frozen. The air grew, heavier, thicker. And then, from behind him, a reflection shimmered faintly in the mirrored wall. A woman's outline. She was standing just behind him, her hair hanging low, her hands clasped together as if holding something fragile. Jin spun around, no one there. He pressed himself against the panel, flashlight trembling in his grip. I'm not staying in here," he muttered. He pried open the emergency hatch, climbed halfway up and froze, because the roof of the elevator wasn't empty. A trail of wet footprints led across the metal surface, stopping directly above where he had been standing seconds earlier. He dropped back inside, slamming the panel shut. His breath came in gasps now. "Okay," he whispered, forcing the words out. "Okay. There has to be a logical explanation. Maybe I triggered something. Maybe this floor—" The speaker crackled again. A woman's voice this time. Calm, soft, eerily clear. "Welcome back to room 4. Oh, 4. The doors opened. Jin's stomach dropped. The elevator had stopped on the 4th floor again, but the hallway wasn't the same one he'd entered earlier. The lighting was different, dimmer. The wallpaper peeled like rotting skin. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling. He stepped out slowly, camera shaking in his hand. "This can't be right," he whispered. "This can't be—" The doors behind him slammed shut. The digital display above the elevator blinked erratically before fading completely to black. Jin turned. The entire hallway was lined with doors now. Dozens of them, each one identical, each one numbered 404. He spun around in confusion, panic breaking through reason. The numbers stretched endlessly in both directions, 404, 404, 404, repeating forever. The air buzzed faintly, like static. "Hello?" he shouted, voice cracking. "Is anyone here?" No reply. Then, the nearest door opened slightly with a soft creak. Inside, he could hear the faint sound of a television playing distorted voices, laughter, then a long, drawn-out scream. He approached cautiously, his camera catching glimpses through the crack. A shadow moving, a flash of white fabric, the outline of a woman sitting on a bed. "Minho?" he whispered, half hoping, half praying. The laughter from the television stopped instantly. The figure inside turned her head. Her face was blurred, but her smile wasn't. And then, in perfect English, she whispered through the crack, 4. Oh, 4. Jin staggered back. Every door in the hallway began to rattle violently, as though something behind each one was pounding to get out. The air grew thick with noise knocks, whispers, the echo of counting overlapping itself in a dozen voices. Sa, Sam, E. The sound surrounded him, closing in. He ran, sprinting down the hall, doors slamming open and shut on either side. His camera swung wildly, catching glimpses, faces pressed against glass, pale hands reaching out, all whispering the same word. 4, 4, 4. He didn't stop until he reached the end of the corridor, where a single unmarked door waited. He grabbed the handle and yanked it open, desperate for escape. But the room beyond wasn't a hallway. It was 404 again, perfectly preserved. The cup of coffee, the suitcase, the frozen digital clock, all waiting for him. On the bed sat the woman, smiling faintly, her head tilted, as if she'd been expecting him. "Why?" Jin breathed. "Why me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she lifted her hand, revealing the small silver keycard he had used to open the door hours earlier. Then she whispered softly, "Because you looked for me." The walls began to shake. The lights burst one by one, and Jin's camera caught its final frame, the woman leaning forward, her mouth stretching into a too-wide grin as she whispered the final word. 0. The footage stopped there. A single frozen frame, the woman's blurred face. Her mouth forming that last impossible word 0. Then the camera tumbled sideways, showing only the carpet and a flickering shadow moving across it before the battery died. That was all the police ever found. 3 days later, the hotel reopened as if nothing had happened. No statement, no investigation. The staff refused to comment. The management claimed there was no guest registered under that name, and the digital booking records showed an odd gap that night, as if room 404 had never been accessed. But the camera told a different story. When the police turned it over to the cyber forensic team, they discovered something strange. The metadata on the video didn't line up. The timestamps were wrong. Every clip recorded between midnight and 3 a.m. showed a negative time code. Instead of counting forward, it counted backward. The file ended at 0 hours. The team dismissed it as a software glitch. But one of the officers, a young investigator named Kang, didn't. He'd been the first to review the footage alone, and what he saw haunted him long after the official report closed. He told his supervisor that if you turned up the audio gain in the last minute, you could hear something layered beneath Jin's breathing, faint, rhythmic, like whispering, numbers, counting down. When he tried to isolate the voice, the software crashed 3 times. On the 4th attempt, the waveform appeared perfectly normal, except for a second voice that hadn't been there before. A woman's. Soft, calm, whispering one phrase over and over in Korean. He finished counting. Kong tried to shake it off, telling himself he was overworked. But then something else happened. 2 nights later, he got a call from a man claiming to be a former employee of the hotel. The voice was low, cautious. "You shouldn't keep that footage," the man said. "The more you watch it, the closer the room gets." "The room?" Kang repeated. The man hesitated. There was, never supposed to be, a 4th floor. That made no sense. Kang checked the building's floor plan the next day. The blueprints clearly listed floors 1 through 7. But when he visited in person, the elevator panel was different. The 4 button was missing, covered with a blank metal plate. He confronted the night manager, who went pale at the mention of Jin's name. "That guest checked into 408, the manager said quickly. "We have no record of anyone accessing maintenance areas. We've already provided the footage." Kang leaned closer. "You sealed off that room, didn't you?" The manager's hands shook slightly as he adjusted his tie. "You don't understand. The room isn't ours. It's the building's. Before we bought this property, it was another hotel. There was an incident. A woman jumped, but the old owners didn't clear the space properly before the remodel. The workers said it was connected, a number that can't be erased." He lowered his voice. "Every time someone finds the door, it appears again. The blueprints change." The cameras loop. Kang left that night with the uneasy sense that the man was telling the truth. The next morning, he filed the report. No foul play, case closed. But the file never uploaded correctly. The text replaced itself mid-transfer, repeating a single line over and over. 404 not found. Meanwhile, Jin's followers online began dissecting the recovered footage frame by frame. One user slowed it down and discovered something no one had noticed before a reflection in the window at the moment Jin first entered the room. The skyline of Seoul was there. Yes, but the reflection wasn't of him. It was someone standing behind him, closer to the lens, their features obscured. And when you adjusted the contrast, you could see what they were holding. A camera, just like his. Another commenter noticed that the final shot, when Jin falls, briefly captures a reflection in the black screen of the turned-off television. The timestamp flashes one last time, 12:03 a.m. The exact moment the first victim years ago had called the front desk to report someone standing at the foot of her bed. The community labeled it a hoax at first, but then people began reporting strange things. Those who watched the entire footage without skipping said their screens flickered for a split second when the countdown reached 2. Some claimed they heard faint knocking after midnight, even when their devices were unplugged. One viewer from Busan uploaded his own reaction video. He laughed it off, played the final minute in slow motion, and froze halfway through. His voice changed. He whispered, almost unconsciously, 4. Oh, 4. The video cut abruptly there. It was deleted a day later, but not before a few thousand people saw it, and if you search for it now, the page still exists blank, with only a single line of text remaining. This video is unavailable. The room no longer exists. But here's the thing, the hotel does. It's still there, still open, still glowing above the streets of Gangnam. And every few months, guests report something the staff can't explain an extra charge on their bill labeled room service 404. No one admits to delivering it. No one can find where it came from. And if you ask the front desk, they'll just tell you what they told Jin. There is no room 4. Oh, 4, sir. You must be mistaken. Except sometimes, just sometimes, when the elevator door closes, the panel lights up on its own. The number glows red. 4, 5, 6 weeks passed. Jin's disappearance faded into rumor, the hotel returned to business, and the story of room 404 became just another ghost tale whispered online until a new video appeared. It was uploaded under Jin's own account. No title, no description, just a thumbnail of static. At first, people assumed it was a hacked channel, but curiosity won. The video went viral within hours. It opened with darkness, the faint hum of an elevator, then a familiar voice whispering through static, Jin's voice. Calm, too calm. Hey guys, I finally found it, the image flickered. The camera showed his face, half lit by a dim red glow. Behind him, blurred and motionless, was a woman's silhouette. His eyes didn't look like they used to. There was no trace of fear, only resignation. He smiled faintly. You were right, he said. It's real, but it's not a room. Static swallowed the frame. Then came 3 slow knocks. Sa, Sam, E, 4, 3, 2. And then, before the final number, Jin leaned toward the camera, whispering something so quietly most viewers missed it on the first watch. She wants out. The screen went black. The video ended there, or it should have. But those who kept watching claimed the player didn't close. Their screens stayed black, faintly reflecting their own faces in the monitor's glare. Then, behind that reflection, another, a pale figure, smiling. You can still find the video if you search hard enough. The link changes every few days, as if it doesn't want to be found for long. But when you do, the upload date always reads the same, 12:03 a.m. And sometimes, when the comments section reopens, a new username appears. No profile picture, no history, leaving the same 3 words beneath every re-upload. 4. Oh, 4. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Tomorrow we will be uploading another terrifying story. Feel free to subscribe and put on your notifications to never miss another scary video. I upload almost every day. Wish you all the best.